This episode of Test Drive is brought to you by Elmec and their EV Duty Smart Home Charger. Hello viewers, you join us on our very first snowfall in St. Thomas, Ontario. We're about halfway through January 2024, and this is the first significant amount of snow that we've gotten. Even though it's only a couple centimeters, it has caused quite a bit of havoc on the roads, which is a great reason why I've got a vehicle like this to be testing. This is a 2024 Volvo C40 Ultimate with the twin motor. Price is about $82,000 Canadian or about $60,000 in the US. So why are you going to be considering this subcompact luxury electric SUV? Well, it has two electric motors, one in the front, one in the back, good for 300 kilowatts or 402 horsepower, as well as 486 pound-feet of torque. It has a 75 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery, good for 414 kilometers as rated by Volvo. Currently, we're seeing anywhere from around 290 to about 310. Temperatures here are about 0 degrees Celsius, which is what we would expect to see with a vehicle such as this, getting less range in the winter, but we'll talk about that on our road test. Now, if you're going to be charging this vehicle at a DC fast charger, you can do up to 200 kilowatts with this, and Volvo says that it'll charge in about 34 minutes from 10% to 80% if you find yourself at a 200 kilowatt charger. At home, you can go up to 11 kilowatts or a 48 amp breaker, giving you a full charge from empty in about 8 hours. Now, our EV Duty Smart Home Charger is more along the lines of a 30 amp. I'm getting about 7.1 kilowatts, and I'm still getting this charged up no problem. I mean, we haven't done tons of driving with it, but my original drive home was about 200 kilometers, so I used up about 60% of the range, and this was no problem to get charged up. I had it charged for a couple hours, got me back to about 55%, and then overnight, no problem whatsoever. Now, this vehicle is configured in the Onyx black paint. I think it looks pretty sharp, and then the interior is quite interesting. We have the Midnight Zinc tailored wool blend seating, and it says that the interior is also charcoal without any leather. So the steering wheel is a leatherette, the dashboard, nothing is animal skin on the inside of this, which could be great for those who really do care about animals or just care about the environment. The impact of using animal skins on the interiors of vehicles can be devastating to our environment, as well as obviously the animals themselves. So these wool seats are actually extremely comfortable. I'm glad that Volvo selected them. There are a couple different options for seating on this vehicle, this being the upgrade. It's about $250 in the US. Definitely a nice option to go with. They are very comfortable. Heated seats get really warm as well. I know we hear from people in the comments whether or not they do warm up. And on my drive just here, which is about 4 or 5 minutes from where I live, I had to turn them down. They were so hot. But yeah, there's no leather on the inside, nothing animal skin. We have the Auraforce crystal gear shifter, which we've seen before from Volvo. And then Volvo says they've got what they call topography decor. So the door cards and dashboard have this, map-like design to it, which at first glance just looks like a funky design, but when you actually look at it, it is like a topographical map. It actually illuminates at night, and they're backlit. It looks pretty cool. See if we can throw some B-roll in there for you. It's hard to see on camera, but if you do have a chance to drive one at night, it is a pleasant surprise. But we're going to take this 2024 Volvo C40 on the road, talk about how it performs in the winter. We've got winter tires on this vehicle. Number one thing we always recommend if you live somewhere that gets snow, you gotta get winter tires. So we're gonna be testing the tires, the car, and everything else about this vehicle here on Test Drive. Well, we're going to start off our driving segment in the parking lot here because there's a couple things I want to talk about first and foremost before we get going. When you step into the Volvo C40, first thing you're going to notice is there's no start-stop button. Usually you find it on the dashboard. There's a place that looks like it would have a start-stop button. It's just a plastic hole that's been covered up, and Volvo usually has like a knob sort of to start the vehicles up in the center console. That's not there either. The vehicle is like a Tesla. You just get into it, and then when you put it into drive, it will go. Personally, I don't like this stuff. I haven't talked about it in depth, but there have been a couple of vehicles we've driven that do this. I don't like it. I like getting into the car and pushing a button. Why? Because I'm in control. Not only is it easier for me as I'm filming these vehicles to be able to determine whether or not the vehicle's running or not, it's just way easier to know if the vehicle's on or off. You have to go to the infotainment to shut it off. So if there's a problem, if you need to stop the vehicle and not get out of it for whatever reason, you have to go in and do that. And really, when you put the vehicle in park, it's essentially in off mode. But there's two things, at least for me, that I find annoying because of this. If I'm filming it, I can't film the interior B-roll with the screens and everything running because the car shuts off. Number two, if I'm driving around and I stop somewhere, my family's in the car, I've got to play around with the infotainment to keep the vehicle running. And it's not keeping the vehicle running, it's just keeping the heating and everything going, because as soon as I open my door, everything shuts off. And the only way to get it to go is really to put the vehicle into drive, because it's not enough to just get into the car. It takes a second for things to get going, and I still don't find that the HVAC works super well unless the vehicle is truly on. Now, the other thing I noticed too is scheduling. We talk about this when it comes to any electric vehicles. I have scheduled this vehicle to be ready to go when I need it in the morning and afternoon. For example, 8:35 in the morning is when I leave to drop my daughter off at school. This morning, I went outside at about 8:30 to clear off all the snow. Interior was getting warmed up, it was pumping in air and everything, not necessarily defrosting though. And as soon as it hit 8:35, car shut off. So keep that in mind. You have to leave at the time it says you're going to be leaving at. You do have a little bit of a window obviously before, but I do prefer, again, having a little bit more of a margin of error. So if 8:35 is going to be my deadline, now I might set that to be 8:40 or 8:45 in case my schedule changes a little bit. So a couple of things to note with that. It's just how it is, Volvo, that's how they're doing things here. But we'll hit the road now. We'll put the car into drive and get going on it. Also, we did our energy efficiency on our test loop. This vehicle completed it in 22 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. You can get the miles per gallon equivalent below. I don't like using MPGE, but those of you down in the US seem to like it, so we include it for you. So let's hit the road now with the Volvo. Like I said, it has been snowing. This is the most amount of snow I have seen so far this season. I wish it wasn't snowing, but at least we have the opportunity to test this vehicle out. Specifications for the winter tires that we have are below, so you can see exactly what we're driving on these. So far though, I have found that this has worked pretty well. I've had a couple small traction issues here and there, and it's really just if I'm like flooring it in slush. When you saw there, I was able to give it quite a bit of acceleration, no problem whatsoever, but the roads are kind of clearing up now. Compared to this morning though, wasn't the case. This morning it was actually pretty bad. I don't know what the delay was to start clearing the roads off here in St. Thomas, but I haven't seen really any snowplow trucks. I think that they anticipated the rain was going to be coming, or some more wet snow and things like that would kind of clear it up, and they just thought, we're not going to plow, because they didn't. So we're driving around and see if I can find you some rougher areas to be able to test this vehicle out on, but so far it has been great. Because it is an all-wheel drive vehicle, and as we take it here kind of into some of the slushy stuff, everything works great. If I slam on the brakes, yeah, there's a little bit of a slip there, but I'm in slush. That's expected, but that actually worked really well. So, if you're worried about this vehicle because it's electric, we've heard some people in the comments, specifically when we were doing the BMW X5, I had somebody complain that they own the vehicle and they found that the traction wasn't that very good. Well, so far so good with this vehicle. It is a twin motor unit, so one motor drives the front axle, one motor drives the rear axle. That's typically what we see in new age electric vehicles now, so nothing unexpected as to the way this works. So far I've been pretty happy with it. And obviously, again, winter tires are key. You gotta have winter tires if you have any amount of snow, or even if it gets cold, right? 7 degrees Celsius is that magic number where all season tires don't perform as well anymore. So you just gotta do it. So regardless of having four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, you just need to have winter tires. But I've liked the overall drive of this. It's comfortable. The seats are great. We always love Volvo seats. Interior space here is okay for a guy like me. I do find that this pillar here, the roof line, just a little tight to get my head out of, right? You can see I'm hitting my head right now, so I do have to kind of duck to get out. That's more of a me problem, but could be a you problem too if you're 6 foot like me or taller, so keep that in mind. And then the infotainment. That's really the sore spot. We've talked about it before with Volvo. It's not our favorite from a luxury vehicle perspective. BMW, Mercedes do a much better job of their infotainment. You can argue that Volvo wants to keep it simple to keep it safe, because obviously distracted driving is a major problem on our streets today, and nothing is more distracting than playing around with the infotainment system. So I guess because there's so little you can do with it, it's good. But the things that it does well are having built-in Google Maps. We've talked about before. Sign in with my Google account, everything's there. It shows me my anticipated battery range when I get to my destination, and it was actually really accurate. When I left Mississauga to bring this home, it told me 38%, and I got here with 39%. I was coasting a little bit maybe, so it improved the range a little bit, but really accurate from that. But aside from that, that's really the best parts of it. This is fully fully loaded when it comes to the C40, so you're getting what you pay for. I mean, you know, 82 grand, I feel it's a little on the pricey side. If I were to really pick between this and the Genesis, I would take the Genesis. I feel that the Genesis GV60 just offers a little bit more, but the same amount of range or so. Both of them are all-wheel drive. Kind of similar power numbers. You know, this doesn't have a boost mode. This also has one pedal driving mode, but there isn't like a brake mode. You know, a lot of electric vehicles that we drive, when you're in drive, it's in drive, you let go of the gas, you know, you kind of coast, but you can put it into brake mode. That'll slow you down a little bit more rather than having to go into one pedal drive. Nothing like that here. So a couple of things that I would have liked to have seen. I think the scheduling could be a little bit easier for the HVAC system, but you do have scheduling for your HVAC, you do have scheduling for your charging, so good things there. You know, and again, we're getting about 300 kilometers of range, which is more or less what we would expect from an electric vehicle at this point. You lose, you know, up to 30-35% range depending on the temperature outside, so it's kind of within that margin, so nothing to be ashamed about if you're driving around in it. And 300 kilometers for me so far has been pretty good, but I just feel that it misses the mark in a couple places. Like I said, the infotainment kind of lackluster. Backup camera, it's really low to the ground, and it's small. We've talked about it again. It takes up only half the real estate on the infotainment system here, so I just find it's not that great. It's in a bad position for a company like Volvo that says, you know, they want to make safety their number one priority. It would have been nice to see a washer nozzle on it. A lot of brands are doing that now. That makes it safer, so then that way if you do have gunk and stuff, as we would today, I can clear it off just with spraying my washer nozzle. So things like that I think would really just elevate this vehicle a little bit more. Everything else is fine. You know, you've got heated wipers and heated windshield, things like that. You do have a heat pump, which helps. That helps with the overall range. That helps with the interior cabin because it is warm in here. It's just I find that it does get a little foggy, and you'll see we've got some B-roll. First morning I had this scheduled, I woke up at the time I was supposed to leave. The interior was fully fogged up. I had to sit there for a couple minutes running the full defrost at maximum power, and it still kind of was frosting up as I was going, so I still had to run it during my drive. So I mean, a couple of things here and there I think could be improved on. You know, especially in cold weather climates like this, you're going to start noticing it. But if you're in a place that doesn't get that cold, you don't get, you know, snow and stuff, then I guess who cares, right? But we're driving it in the snow, we're driving it in the winter, and so far it's been performing pretty well. So I'm happy at least to have been able to test it out a little bit in rougher weather. But as always, we do try to get back to everybody in the comments below. So if you've got questions about this vehicle or anything else that we do here on Test Drive, you can leave a comment below and we will do our best to get back to you. We always appreciate whether you subscribe, like, or share the video online. Everything helps us as we grow our channel and provide you more content here on Test Drive. And as I mentioned as well at the beginning of the video, because we've done the sister vehicle of this, the XC40, even though it was a while ago, you can check that out to see everything about it. But for those of you who have stuck to the end, I'll give you a bit of a rip here as we sign off for the night. So let me just pull ourselves down here. It's a little bit safer. You can see there's a wet patch there, so let's see if I hit that going at speed. Yeah, no problems there whatsoever. Obviously, it's weather's gotten a little bit better, but we'll do a bit of a rip here for you. Obviously, I'm not going to do a 0 to 60, but if you really need to pass somebody who's slow, oh yeah, buddy, come on. That's the business right there. We love to feel that good amount of power there. 4.8 seconds, I think, 0 to 100, so keep that in mind. But thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.